Hi, I'm Robin Forster with FeelSoAlive and with FeelSoAlive Informed. And today I'm playing with some new toys, a teleprompter, as you can tell. So if I'm looking around, that's what's going on. Our program runs about 20 minutes, and I pull in two pre-recorded interviews with two different guests, usually a healer and also a business person. My intent is to bring you bite-sized chunks of information that you can actually use and apply today in your life or your business. In the middle is a brief message from our host, FeelSoAlive. We hope that you find value in this and share it with others. Before we get started, we know that the world is in a lot of pain, and I would like to stop, take 30 seconds, and during our pause, if you would like to send out good vibes, prayer, blessing, white light, whatever it is that you do, let's all do that for 30 seconds for our planet and for those who we know are hurting. And I'm going to start my timer. Thank you for joining me in sending some good vibes, prayer, blessings, white light to our world, because it needs it. So, on with the program. Waiting for the teleprompter to catch up with me. Okay, our first guest is Valerie DiLuggo. And Valerie is a marriage and family therapist, and she's based in the San Francisco Bay Area and also spends some time in Florida. For the past 15 years, she has been helping couples feel more fulfilled in their relationships by better understanding themselves and their partners. She is fueled by the strong belief that anyone can learn new tools to bring satisfaction and joy into their relationships. Valerie often uses humor and laughter to weave a sense of ease and hope into her work. She knows the power of a good laugh and tries to experience that health benefit every day. So let's go ahead and bring Valerie in. We'll see. Hi, Robin Forster with Feel So Alive and Feel So Alive Informed, and thank you for joining us today. And just to let you know, I will be looking down at my notes because we have a very special guest speaker, and I want to make sure that I ask her the questions because she's got some great tips for us. I just wanted to let you know that as a solo entrepreneur, I found that there was resources that I needed and couldn't find. So that's why we put this together to make short little helpful bits that you can take away and use right away. And I would like to introduce you now to our speaker, Valerie. Say hi.
Hi, guys.
And Valerie is a marriage and family therapist, and she is based part of the time in the Bay Area and part of the time in Florida. And I'm sure she'll fill us in on that. And she has been helping couples for over 15 years with their relationships. So I'm really excited to dive in because with all of the COVIDian times that we're living in, we're all living a little closer together than what we had planned on. And so, Valerie, I'm sure you're going to share with us some of the things that couples are running up against and what we can do about it. So if you'd like to go ahead and start, our first question is to tell us a little bit about yourself so folks will know who you are and your background.
Sure. Hi, my name is Valerie DiLuggo. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in the state of California. Um, I do have my own private practice, and that was already all virtual before COVID. So I do feel like I got a little bit of a leg up setting all of that up. But yes, my passion has been to help individuals and couples through their relationships. I always I always say that there's so many tools and about relationships that we're just not taught, and so there's lots of hope in finding peace, peace at home, even during COVID. So that's just a little bit about me.
Oh, great. Okay, good. And how did you get drawn to this line of work, to wanting to help families and relationships heal?
So I don't know if everyone listening, if you know your Myers-Briggs personality or your Enneagram. So I've had every job that it says I would like for my personality. I've been a social worker. I was a pastoral counselor at one point. And that led me to be a therapist. I thought, what part of my job do I just love? And that's really walking people through journeys of healing, of hope, and kind of the nitty gritty, the skills part. And that's why I do what I do. I love to see people just kind of get that aha moment and really feel empowered that they can have a better relationship. You know, we all kind of fall in love and you know, at one point we thought this person was really amazing, right? It had really great qualities, but then, you know, figuring out how to navigate, right, the day to day, sometimes you can feel lost in like, well, how can we make this better? And there really are, it's not just luck. It's not just, you know, maybe I didn't marry my soulmate kind of a thing. You know, there are really great things that we can do every day to help our relationships. So I really love seeing that hope kind of come over someone.
Oh, that sounds really awesome, because I've been married for a long, long time. and, and it does kind of, it's kind of cyclical,
Mm-hmm.
but not really, but it is. I mean, there's things that happen and different phases of life, and we're now in a different season, so different issues.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's really fascinating. And I was just thinking what you said about, you know, you fall in love and everything is wonderful, and then you find out that maybe they burp or they leave dirty socks in the middle of the floor, or you know, and then
Yeah. See life a little bit different than you do. Right? Shock.
yeah, and then, you know, navigating all of those things, and I think, and I know that you could probably tell us, the first 2 or 3 years of marriage, I mean, it seems like you're just trying to get your footing, but it seems like that's when a lot of couples break up, that they don't
Mm.
have, what is it, the tools, or what is it that makes that so challenging?
Yeah, you know, I think I really like to talk about expectations of realities and kind of bash some of them, you know, just because I say that like the expectation fall back to reality, the higher it is, right? The harder hit you get when, you know, so I think that is part of it. I think that, you know, maybe we're caught up in this like, it's about the match, and if I just got the right match, like it should be easy. I shouldn't have to tell someone how to love me well, when I actually am like, no, it's going to feel like over communicating, right? One of the best predictors for relational satisfaction is each partner's ability to be assertive. And that doesn't mean sort of domineering. It means who can ask for what they need. And so I really talk about plain communication, asking for it. This is how I'm feeling. You know, could you help me with this? Or this is what's going on. Would you be able to do this for me? Or, you know, can you help me with this? So, or this isn't working for me. Right? This is not working for me. And I think that, you know, for maybe especially some of the females, it's, you know, well, it's less romantic, or it means they don't know me if they, you know, it's funny. My husband, this is a funny story. The other day, we were walking, and I was just drawing in not the lavender, the lavender, and I was just like, oh no, the jasmine. I was like, the jasmine, and you know, it grows on the bushes, and we're walking, and I'm like, oh, I could smell this every day. It makes me feel so happy. And he was like, I didn't know you loved Jasmine, we should plant it at the house. And I had to text my girlfriends right away because they all know that. They've been knowing that for 15 years. I talk about it all the time. It's like, oh, you just learned it, like it was a big surprise, and it was just, so even, when someone loves you a lot and you love them, there's just so much that they can catch onto. And part of it, right, is taking ownership of what we need and what we want in a relationship.
That's such a good example because it's so easy. I mean, when you're living with someone all the time, you kind of, I think, tone some things out, that you don't hear because you're doing something. And for me, my husband plays golf a lot. And I don't play golf. I'm supportive that he does, but it's not for me. And so I really don't want to care about the bogeys and the birdies and all of those things that happen in golf because it doesn't mean anything to me. But when
Sure.
he talks about how beautiful it was or how his golfing buddies were doing, that it's like, okay, I can hear that,
Right, right.
Yeah. Well,
Well, I can give a little tip in what you said on that. One thing I like to talk about is bids for connection. It's a daily, everyday thing. The Gottman Institute did a lot of research. They put people into rooms and watched them on this retreat and coded all their behaviors, and they're able to predict if a relationship was going to last or not. Really interesting. Like, was a very good accuracy. When they measured when a partner was trying to get the attention of the other, what was the response? Was it, yeah. And little things like, hey, honey, look at that boat over there. Uh, and, obviously there's a range of reactions from, ooh, let me see, to, to, why are you bothering me right now? And especially if maybe, you and your partner have different, let's say, engagement needs. It could be like, hey, leave me alone, I'm trying to do something. But even just knowing that when your partner is trying to explain something to you, that's a bid for connection. It's, I want to share something with you. And so when you are acknowledging that, you're doing one of those little things often that tells your partner, hey, what matters to you matters to me. And so that's a little thing that, that even if, it's another bizarre, funny animal video I'm being asked to watch that I think is right, like ridiculous comedy or something, Borat, he wants to show it to me, okay, I'm doing this because it's his world, right? And obviously, there's all kinds of negotiations that you can make, but just knowing that you're doing something good for your relationship when you accept a bid for a connection.
oh, interesting. Well, and I like how you frame that you're doing something good for your relationship. Because we all know that it takes work to be able to communicate with someone. But it's almost like that win-win at the end. The what did you do today that worked, that was
Mm-hmm.
positive?
Yeah,
You can reflect on that.
right.
Interesting. Well, in the couple minutes that we have left, can you
Yeah.
share some more tips? Because that one was awesome.
Thank you. Sure. I wanted to talk about validation because I thought we can apply it to our relationships and also just to ourselves as people. Um, and this is sort of the counterintuitive thing about emotions. I think we all want to tap down emotions. If we start to maybe feel some sadness, if we just don't think about it or don't uh, honor it, then it will just go away, right? We don't recognize it. But the funny thing about emotions is that for them to subside and for us to feel like, okay, now what do we do with them? They need to be validated, they need to be recognized, because emotions give us information, right? Emotions are telling us, they're just more information that we have about how we're doing, what's going on in the world. And so the information wants to know that it's been received, it's going to keep, right? I think, actually, you probably don't do this, but if my husband isn't hearing me and I'm yelling for him, I'll yell a bit louder if he doesn't hear me. Then I realize he has his AirPods on and so he can't hear me. But I will raise the volume until I get a response. And that's exactly what happens with our emotions. So, right, if we're upset about something and the first, we don't get a response, then or if you find yourself calling a couple different friends to see if you don't maybe know that you're trying to get validated, but the emotion wants to be recognized. So the counterintuitive thing is, I want to say, don't be afraid to validate your own emotions or your partner's emotions. Now, that can just really be about acknowledging it. It doesn't mean, I like to talk about what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean that you are co opting or agreeing with maybe what they did or why they're, it doesn't mean that, you're letting them off the hook for something. It's really just, if thinking about them as another human and how their experience might be, could you imagine if you were in their shoes that they would feel this way?
Oh, I
Right?
like that. Yeah, I remember there's an exercise where you put on the other person's shoes and you walk around in them. I mean, literally. And it's enlightening. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So I think when we do have an emotion rise up, to be able to say, what am I feeling? And then say, well, why could I be feeling that way? Especially in the middle of a pandemic, right? Well, of course, you're feeling stressed because the whole world is changing and we really don't know what's going to happen. Of course, you would feel scared, frightened, overwhelmed, frustrated. And then, and I don't, maybe you've felt this too, when you're kind of telling a story and out of nowhere someone says, like, maybe your friend says, like, well, yeah, I could see, like, yeah, you were totally justified, or wow, yeah, I can see how you felt that way. And you kind of stop, and then you're like, oh yeah, like, thanks. And it actually calms you down. So that's a great thing you can do for yourself. And when it comes to our partners, I think it gets trickier, right? And I'm going to talk about the Gottmans again. They talk about the importance that your partner feels like it's you guys against the world. That at the end of the day, right, you're going to fight for each other, you're going to stand up for each other, and you're going to help each other. What we know about attachment and our need for intimacy is that our partners regulate our emotions. And so when a partner comes and is like, man, I had a really bad day, and it might say, well, why? And maybe it's, well, I got in trouble by my boss, was mad at this, whatever. Now, maybe as a partner, you know that your partner's weaknesses. So in your mind, you might think, like, well, good, now maybe you'll change, right? Or, oh, good, right? Like, if I were your boss, I would do the same thing. But at that moment, when your partner's coming to you, right, like, with the burdens of the day, that is not what they're looking for, right? And that is not what they need from you as a partner. As a partner, they need, man, I'm sorry you had a bad day, like that, that sucks. And maybe later, right, you can always have a conversation about, like, well, whatever else, right, is, sort of the facts of the matter. But in that moment, right, what that person is looking for is for connection, for understanding, and that's a chance to validate what they're going through. And again, another little thing that you can do for your relationship that can make a big change. This one was hard for me. I don't talk about things that I haven't done, because I'm a big, like, you probably deserve that. But that's not what he was looking for, and that doesn't help us.
Valerie, I'm watching the clock, and yet I want to hear all the wonderful things you're saying, because I know you've got another appointment scheduled. And so it sounds like, just to encapsulate a little bit what you were just talking about, is to, instead of leading with "I told you so" to a spouse, lead with empathy. And you had 3 other things that went with that also that were awesome.
Right.
Yeah, but to make the connection and to leave the "I told you so" on the floor, switch it up, throw it out. It's not helpful.
That's right. Connection, for little bits of connection.
Connection. Yeah, that is so, yeah, I just really like. And we're going to have you come back, because obviously we have a whole lot more to talk about.
Sure.
yeah, concerned about the time. So Valerie, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here
Thank you.
today.
It's good being with you.
Wasn't that great? I just really appreciated listening to her and talking about, I was taking notes about validation and validating our emotions. Emotions want to be recognized. And the whole piece that she was sharing about bids for connection. You know, how many times are we making a bid for a connection and it's not working? The connection's not happening, the other person doesn't understand. So I really appreciated that. And now, a little short message from our host, which is Feel So Alive. So, what this is all about, usually I talk about nutrition, nutritional products, self care, how we can take care of ourselves. But today it's a little bit different kind of self care. It's about financial. Because I know that for a lot of folks, it's a really scary time. And this is a gift that may not be something that you personally are looking for, but you may know someone and you may be talking to someone who is looking for this. Someone who needs to hear that even during the times that we're in, that there is hope, there are choices for better health and for a better lifestyle and having some income. Our little pop-up, because we wanted to share that, so this pop-up is 15 minutes, short and sweet, and it's the point of it is giving you the information so that you can make an informed choice as to whether this is helpful for you or for somebody that you know. And for more information, you can email me, which is robin@feelsoalive.biz, and it's on the bottom of the slide, and should be sprinkled other places through today. But I just wanted to share that real quick. And now, back to our program. Hi, I'm Robin Forster with Feel So Alive and Feel So Alive Informed. And this program started right before COVID hit because my mentor, and I'm looking down at my notes if you're wondering, my mentor, Jasmine Starr, told us to go out and do something uncomfortable, to stretch and go do a Facebook Live. So I started, and then COVID hit. And as we know, the world changed. And I realized that there was information that folks needed that they might not have access to, and they might not even know that they needed the information. So we have put together these bite-sized segments, about a 10-minute interview with a guest speaker to help give you the information that you need quickly. And that is Frank King, our guest speaker. And it is my pleasure to introduce you to him. Frank, I know you waved to everyone, but if you would like to say hi, you
Hi,
can.
everybody.
Okay. I met Frank King years ago networking in Oregon, and he somehow always managed to get himself in trouble at our networking events when we were all introducing ourselves, because he always managed to say something a little off color and very funny, had the whole group in stitches. That was my first introduction to Frank King. And I didn't realize this until recently, but Frank King was a writer for The Tonight Show for 20 years. So no wonder he's so funny and does it so well. He's also now a motivational public speaker, and he uses his life lessons to start the conversation, giving people permission to give voice to their feelings and their experiences. And wow, don't we all need that now more than ever? So I'm going to let you go ahead and I'm going to let Frank go ahead and tell you about how he is standing in his truth, doing it with humor, and helping others. So Frank.
Yes.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I am a suicide prevention speaker, and if you heard, I've been a comedian since the day after Christmas, 1985, full time. Did comedy clubs for 2,629 nights in a row, nonstop. Did some radio and then got into the corporate comedy circuit, the rubber chicken circuit. Did that till 2007, and then when the last recession, a phrase I thought I would never use in my lifetime, hit, we lost everything in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. And as my business dropped off 80%, and that's when I discovered what the barrel of my gun tastes like. Spoiler alert, I did not pull the trigger. A friend of mine came up to me at a keynote, because I always say that at my keynotes, and he goes, "Hey man, how come you didn't pull the trigger?" I go, "Hey man, could you try to sound a little less disappointed?" If you'd like to know why I didn't pull the trigger, it's in my first TEDx talk called A Matter of Laugh, L-A-U-G-H, or Death. I've done 5 of them. You're probably wondering, a comedian with 5 TED Talks, how does that work? Well, all you need for a TED Talk is to find your tribe. And my tribe are people who live with depression, thoughts of suicide, and for whom suicide is always on the menu as a solution for problems large and small. It runs in my family. It's called generational depression and suicide. My grandmother died by suicide. My mother found her. My great aunt died by suicide. My mother and I found her. I was 4 years old. I screamed for days. And so I spend my time marketing, booking, and speaking on suicide prevention, generally as a workplace health and safety issue, but also in colleges and for associations. And I find it very fulfilling and therapeutic.
Well, and I think I was reading in your bio that you're also doing a thing for seniors or for the elderly. I'm not sure where we turn from seniors into elderly, but
Yeah.
that there's a whole other season of life that you're also addressing and helping deal with suicide.
No, not so. Must be somebody else.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry, Robin.
That'll teach me to skim a bio and not read it word for word.
Correct. No.
So let's go on to the next question that I have for you.
Yeah.
And how did you get drawn into this line of work, and how has it benefited others? And you told us a little bit about your family history and how you got drawn into it.
Well, the comedy. I've been a comedian since 4th grade. When I told my first joke, and everybody laughed, including the teacher. 12th grade, I did the senior talent show, did stand up, first person to ever do stand up at that talent show, and decided I was going to be a comedian. And then moved to San Diego to take my first job. It was in insurance, and there's a comedy store there. Open mic night, and that was the beginning of the end of my insurance career. However, I always wanted to make a living and a difference. I always wanted to be a speaker who was funny rather than a funny speaker. But I could never figure out what I had to teach anybody. And after I came so close to dying by suicide, I took a look at my family history of depression and suicide. I thought, if I did some studying, got some designations, learned, the ins and outs of suicide prevention, I could be a suicide prevention speaker. I could talk about my lived experience. I could give them takeaways, learning objectives, able tos, and in the process, add a little comic relief to make it more digestible. And so and people go, well, how'd you pick the topic of suicide and depression to speak on? Well, the topic picked me. It's my purpose and my passion. I go to bed thinking about it. I wake up thinking about it. I always advise speakers and other business people that you need to, as they say in the speaking business, pick a lane. Because I looked around, Robin, at all the people I knew in the Eugene Springfield area who were extremely successful, including you. And I thought, what do they have in common? You know what they have in common, Robin? They all do one thing extremely well. So January 1st, 2018, I dropped all the marketing on my other speeches, networking, motivation, whatever. Decided I was a suicide prevention speaker. And then I believe, as they say in NSA, National Speakers Association, the riches are in the niches. So I looked at the top 10 occupations at risk for suicide. I picked 5 of them that have a high rate of suicide, and they're all trying to do something about it. Dentists, veterinarians, physicians, construction, and safety managers. So I picked a lane, which I advise anybody who's in business to do. Drop all the side hustles, Marty Gator, and that's a friend of ours I've been hammering on, drop the other jobs. And then find your ideal client. Find the person who, A, needs your help, B, has the money to pay you, and C, has a desperate need for what you have to tell them.
Well said. Thank you. Because it's easy thinking about businesses to just want to do the shotgun approach.
Yeah.
And just talk to everybody. And I know in my business, it's real easy to do that. And they call it anybody who's fogging up a mirror. You hold a mirror under their nose. If they're breathing, they're a customer.
Yes.
But you're right. That doesn't work. And
no, there's
really need to be
a guy named Michael Port called Book Yourself Solid.
Yes.
And he says it's the velvet rope technique. Yeah, pretend like you're running a really high-end nightclub, and they only let certain people pass the velvet rope, and those are the people your ideal clients are the one you should let pass the velvet rope, and the rest of them you refer if they don't, if you really can't do the best job for them. So
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That's an amazing book. If anyone hasn't read it and they're trying to take their business to the next level, it's worth going through.
Absolutely. You know, it helped me focus. Again, that was one of the things that helped me focus on, okay, I need to pick a lane, not be a generalist. And I tell my speaker coaching clients, my TEDx coaching clients, when somebody comes to your website, a meeting planner who wants whatever it is, you know, they think you do, when they get to that website, it better appear that's all you do. You are the expert. And they fight me tooth and nail, Robin, because, you know, it's called opportunity cost. If you focus on one thing, you're eliminating the others, and they're afraid they're going to lose money by eliminating all the other things. But short-term loss, perhaps, but long-term gain if you focus.
Well, and it also goes back to that saying is that you need to make room for what it is that you want. And if you have all these clients that you're serving or trying to attract that really aren't the ones that are attracted to you, then you're not leaving room for the ones who really are and who you can do some best service for.
Yeah, I can't remember who wrote the book, but it's like Planet A, Planet B. If you're on Planet A and you want to be on Planet B, that's your goal. You should never do anything that doesn't move you from Planet A to Planet B. If whatever you're about to do doesn't fit the bill, don't do it.
Exactly. Put it off to the side.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. Nice sidetrack. That was fascinating. Thank you, Frank. And tell us a little bit about the gifts that you want to give to the world, the tips or the tools. What is it that we can do?
Well, what if those of us with mental illness are not living with a genetic mutation, but an amazing evolutionary adaptation? And what if mental illness is, as Malcolm Gladwell says in his book, David and Goliath, of such things, a desirable disadvantage? You wouldn't wish it on anybody, but it comes with certain advantages. And my third TEDx talk is called The Evolutionary Advantages of Mental Illness, Mental with Benefits. And the premise is, and the reason I did the TED Talk was for kids, to change the frame for children, young people, who have mental illness. What if we could convince a young person, yes, you have mental illness, but guess what? And here's what they never tell you. You have a certain set of mental ableness that your peers cannot touch. Because everybody I've met, Robin, who wasn't completely dysfunctional with mental illness had some kind of superpower. You know, they're great writers, musicians, comedians, singers, politicians, athletes. I believe that mental illness is a duality. It's a combination of mental illness and mental ableness. That's the way my brain is wired. And I said in the talk, I'm not broken. I was made this way. So if you have someone in your life who's living with mental illness, take a look around, see if there isn't something that they do particularly well. Treat the mental illness, therapy, medication, but embrace, energize, and wrap your arms around their mental ableness. And you know who's doing this, Robin? This is on 60 Minutes last Sunday night. 30 Fortune 500 companies are now actively hiring people on the autism spectrum for their special talents and paying them handsomely.
Excellent. I was just having that discussion with a friend whose son is on the spectrum, and he's just starting his career, and they're a little concerned about how that's going to work out. But Frank, as always, this has been absolutely fabulous, and I knew that it would. And I hate to cut us off, but I know that you have another appointment to get to, and I appreciate you giving us this time.
Yes, and I didn't say anything inappropriate.
You didn't the whole time. I am so impressed.
And you must admit, at those meetings, Robin, at those chamber meetings, they would not have been the same without my occasional, yelling out something slightly inappropriate.
It's true. Frank, thank you.
Thanks, Robin.
Wasn't that fascinating what he was talking about in terms of ableness and being able to reframe what we as a society have put such a big stigmatism on? I just really appreciate Frank, as you can probably tell, and the way he turns that around. I mean, what a blessing to everyone who is feeling stigmatized. I just thought that was just amazing and awesome. And please go listen to his TEDx talks. I haven't yet, but it's on my list because how marvelous. And so now we are transitioning. wanted to let you know that usually we are the second and fourth Thursdays of every month, but in November and December, because of the holidays, we are not. We're only the second Thursday of November and the second Thursday of December. And yes, I know we're not exactly on the second Thursday of November because I was having all kinds of computer problems. It was pretty amazing. So if you'll put us on your calendar, you can go to our Facebook page, which is FeelSoAlive Marketing Group. That's what the MKGP stands for, because who wants to type that out? And like us, make sure you get signed up so you get notifications. And also you can subscribe, and I would suggest clicking the little bell on YouTube so that you'll know, because we're working on broadcasting to YouTube also. And that is also FeelSoAlive Marketing Group. So thank you very much for joining us live, and for those of you who are watching the replay, thank you very much, and have an awesome day.